doing to prepare for your new role in state government?
Gonna let Ed start.
Just talking to a lot of people, talking to community leaders. I've had an opportunity to meet a few people at different events, and also starting to talk to Assemblyman Alfano himself, his staff, and just trying to get ready to transition, so that we're come January we're ready to hit the ground running and get to work.
Do you think you're going to keep a lot of the staff in his office in place, or will you be bringing your own staff, or is that something you have to look into going forward?
That's something we're kind of feeling out right now.
Okay.
You know what, Ed's right. I started talking to a lot of people too, mainly my wife, right up that night, making sure how we were going to work everything going up to Albany. But from there, Ed and I just actually went up to Albany for the first time on Monday to elect the minority leader, Mr. Brian Curran. And in that, we both received, a brief freshman orientation, because the Republicans in the Assembly have picked up, or are about to pick up, about 10 seats. So it is the largest pickup of seats by the Assembly Republicans in, I think, since '94. So they are hoping to be beyond the 50 number. So the veto-proof assembly, which they haven't, that the Democrats have enjoyed for the last 15 years, is a big deal up there. So we started to get a feel of what Albany is and how it works. And like Ed, I've been talking to a lot of people about the restructuring of the office, whether or not you'll keep the office at the same location, the staffing. The big difference, and Ed is dealing with it as well as I am, is that we both took over for two people who had been there for a while. So their staffing allotments were significantly higher than what our staffing allotment will be when we come in the door. So we'll have to make important decisions about what to do, how to allocate the money, the reduced amount of money that we have, and where we want to put it. And I know Ed's contemplating about that, but I've already spoken with my chief of staff, and we've decided to actually concentrate the bulk of the money locally and not in the Albany office, so we can concentrate on areas which certain areas that we really want to pay attention to in the first year, particularly Valley Stream, Baldwin, because they're on either ends of my district, and sometimes they feel like they've been left out in the Assembly district. So we want to make sure that we pay specific attention to those areas. That for me, Assemblyman Barra, and for Ed, Assemblyman Alfano, had been sponsors on, and start from there. And then you have to start looking at all the bills that come across your desk just to see if you want to sponsor them and if it's something that interests you to be a part of. So catching up on the legislation is priority number one.
So any particular committees that you're both interested in?
I would say I'm very interested in education, which it's no secret. My predecessor in this seat was very big on education, very involved in schools. I think that's an important one. And there's a few other committees, I think, that not only interest me, but are very important to my constituency. Labor is a big one. There's a very large population in my district, so those are the things that I'm looking into. And one other, I guess, would be even the wagering and horse racing committee, which obviously Belmont Park is.
What do you hope that you can bring to these committees?
Well, you know what? The two that really pop out, and I have to really credit just being the mayor of Lynbrook too, is the veterans and the seniors. Because you know what? Since I've been mayor, it's just I've grown incredibly close with the seniors in our district, especially the Lynbrook Senior Club, and the veterans, both in the Lynbrook VFW as well as the East Rockaway post, the Harry Garrison post. And you hear about all the issues that face them, every time you go to their club. And you just, you want to help them in every way that you can. And I think this is one of the reasons, and I'm sure that Ed shares the same feeling. This is the reason why we ran in the first place. If you can't help the people that you want to, then don't run for the position. So that's two of the favorites that I have on that list.
Go to local community meetings, be they civic meetings, be they at the schools, wherever there's a group looking for a voice, looking for their concerns to be heard so that we can bring those up to Albany and up to the Assembly as a whole. It's simple, but it's really what our role ultimately is.
So actually, we work very closely with Mr. Silver and his staff. You know what? Here's the thing. Mr. Silver has a very prominent reputation. And in the last 10 years, he's enjoyed a veto-proof assembly. So he could do whatever he wanted to do in those 10 years, rightfully so. You know, he has never been a man who has never said that he would do something and not do it. He has moved his assembly in the direction that he feels is best for his constituents and the area of the people that are part of his group. But I think now, with the pickup of 10 seats by the Republicans, and it's now not a veto-proof assembly, I think he has to, you know, alter the way that he's been running the assembly. And we'll find out soon enough if he's going to do that.
And I think, you know, there's no question, you can't go up there, like Brian said, it is a major, or it's almost 2-to-1 about the number of Democrats to Republicans in that chamber. So you can't go up there thinking, I'm going to go stand on this side of the room with all the Republicans and I'm not going to talk to the guys on the other side. That's not an effective way to be part of the legislature. You have to all be willing to work together for the betterment of your constituency and for the state of New York as a whole.
And again, you know what? Again, so many changes since the closeout of the last session and election day, because Mr. Silver, again, in the papers, has indicated that his willingness to actually enter into a property tax cap, which for the past 3 years he's been reluctant to do. And he indicated that the only reason why he wants to do that, or he's willing to entertain that, is with the new government coming in. It's a good sign.
I'm a fan. I've spent 15 years up there fighting hard for our constituency. I know that, you know, I'm not him. He's who he is. He has a certain skill set. I may have some skills that he doesn't have. He certainly may have some that I don't have. But I think the most important thing that I am going to try to emulate that he's always done is he always kept in mind to make sure he was a voice for everybody in our district. Just amazing, regardless of where they came from, what their background was. His number one thing was to make sure he was a voice for anybody who needed help. And I think that's the most important thing that I can do, is always have my door open for any resident of the district that has a concern, that wants to come in and speak to me about
in the next month to get prepared for this.
I mean, it really, I guess you don't focus on the practical side of things so much as you're running. You're worried about the government side of it. But,
right.
I mean, there's an adjustment to be made. You have to worry about where you're going to stay. You know, are you going to look for an apartment? Or are you going to stay in a hotel every time you go up there? You know, figuring out what the best route to take up there is. You know, when I leave Long Island at 8 o'clock on a Monday morning, am I going to hit a ton of traffic? Or I go one way? Is it better to, like, you know, go a little bit out of the way or avoid traffic? And also just getting set up up there. You know, they're waiting to shuffle all the office space up there, because after every election it shuffles. You know, the kind of veteran assembly people have offices in one spot, and you kind of start off on the lower floor, because I guess they all want to be on higher floors with better windows and better views. So I mean, that's kind of the practical aspect of it that you have to kind of just remember. I guess it's the same type of stuff you'd have to deal with in any new job. It just happens to be, you know, as an assembly member.
How much time do you spend up there, or how much time is required?
In the first month, it's one night a week. Then in the second month, they start getting into 2 nights a week. The third month, then they start getting into 3 nights, and then they start tailing back again until budget time. They're around late May, early June. And then they go 3 or 4 nights a week. And then after June, you know, theoretically, the schedule calls for you not to be back up there.
Right, but, you know, I have work that I have to make sure I get completed, or in many cases, which is the nature of the field of law, a lot of things won't be able to be completed between now and then. So I have to, you know, make sure that they're properly transitioned. Anybody who's going to take over a case I'm handling now, making sure they're up to speed on whatever they need to know on it.
So you'll be focusing on the assembly seat full time, basically.
Once I finish. Once I finish, I don't currently have any other anything else on the table that I'm working on. I mean, I am an attorney. I may, from time to time, you know, if I'm home and there's, you know, some
June,
case I can
December.
work on. But yeah, for the time being, starting in January, that'll I guess be my sole gig for the time being.
Brian, are you leaving the firm?
No.
You're
No,
not?
they're actually working with me. They're
Okay.
incredibly so, because I was very surprised too. But they're 4 great guys, so they're letting me do it. And
You're a junior partner?
yeah, so we'll see. You know, I keep telling them, you know, the first couple of months is going to be a big adjustment. But listen, I'm going on my 10th year there. So they've been great to me. I just hope they're still being great to me come June.
What's the best piece of advice you've gotten from your respective predecessor? So Barra, Alfano.
That's a great question. You know, and I've sat down, and I have to tell you, just Bob has been absolutely fantastic to me. He campaigned with me. He's walked me. We've had at least 3 or 4 meetings with regards to the process and staffing in his office and how it works. He's been great. I think the best advice that he gave me, and it was actually this past Saturday, is you know, when you go up to Albany, when you argue something and you debate something on the floor, you make sure that you don't make it personal, that you advocate what you believe in, but you don't make it personal. And that sounds very, very pedestrian and very common sense. But what I've seen, especially in the last couple of years, both on the federal and the state level, people make things personal, and they make it Democrat versus Republican, and you don't have to do that, you know, because sometimes it's not that black and white, and you should never make things personal against an individual, which you see up in Albany all the time, especially in the Assembly against Shelley Silver. His name came up in this interview, and it's everything doesn't center around Mr. Silver. So to personalize it and make everything about him is just wrong. You argue the merits or debate the merits of a bill and keep it non-personal. And to be honest, it didn't register right when he said it, but it did afterwards, and I think that might have been the best advice that he gave me so far.
Okay.
I would say, as I talked about earlier, I think Assemblyman-elect has kind of, his advice to me has been really to keep in mind what he's always kept in mind, and that's the constituency you represent. Realize the tremendous both ability but tremendous responsibility you now have with representing your community and the surrounding communities, and being able to in many cases be a voice to somebody who may not have any place else to go. You may be their lone opportunity to get their concerns out. So I think that's the #1 thing you always have to keep in mind, and that's really the best advice Assemblyman Alfano has given to me.